The stars hung silent that night.
On the far edge of the Orion expanse, a lone Terran transport drifted in the black, her hull scarred, her transponders silent. Inside, Commander Elias Ward sat bound to a steel chair, blood tracing a thin line across his cheek. He had been missing for 27 days. The entire Terran Alliance believed him dead. But the galaxy was about to learn how wrong that assumption was. The air inside the alien brig shimmered with a sickly green light.
The Corinth Dominion, reptilian and cruel, had captured Ward during a border patrol near Vega 9.
They hadn't expected resistance, only trade routes and miners. Instead, they'd taken a man whose name carried weight in Earth's fleets, the strategist of New Sol. Elias lifted his head, eyes dark but steady. Across from him, the Corinth captain, Vralkesh, circled slowly. "Your species burns too bright for its lifespan," the alien hissed.
"You reach for stars that do not want you. We will teach you restraint."
Ward smiled faintly through cracked lips.
"You're making a mistake."
Vralkesh stopped.
"Mistake?"
"Yeah," Elias rasped. "You don't take a Terran officer alive.
Not unless you want Earth to come knocking." The alien scoffed an ugly, wet sound.
"Earth is a mud world, forgotten by the old empires." Elias leaned forward. "Then you've never seen what happens when mud catches fire." Outside the cell, the stars trembled. On the other side of the void, in sole command, the Terran Grand Council sat in silence. Fleet Marshal Mara Kincaid stared at the empty holoprojector, her jaw locked tight. The Dominion had broadcast a short transmission, one meant to break human morale.
It showed Elias Ward kneeling, beaten but unbowed, as alien laughter echoed. They'd made one fatal mistake: they had sent that transmission to every human frequency in the galaxy. "Confirm its authenticity," Kincaid ordered. Her aide, Lieutenant Jonah Reyes, nodded grimly. "DNA signature matches. It's Ward."
The room fell into a dangerous quiet.
"The kind that comes before storms." "He's alive," whispered one of the admirals. "We can negotiate."
"No," Kincaid interrupted, eyes like cold steel.
"We don't negotiate with kidnappers. We make examples."
Across the table, a holomap flared to life, countless Dominion worlds scattered like embers across the black.
Kincaid stood. "Mobilize the Earth Defense Armada.
Every ship rated for deep strike.
If they think they can take one of ours."
She looked toward the stars, voice low but heavy. "Then the galaxy will remember who we are." 3 days later, the void screened.
The first fleet to arrive was Task Force Scythe, under Admiral James Porter. 200 battleships, painted in obsidian armor, emerged from warp near Vega 9.
The Dominion blockade that had once seemed impregnable now found itself staring into the barrels of Terran railguns the size of mountains.
Porter opened the fleet-wide channel. "This is the United Terran Fleet," he said evenly.
"You have one chance, release Commander Elias Ward.
Failure to comply will be answered with force."
The reply came in static and mockery.
"You will not find him. Your fleets will die like." The signal ended. Porter's eyes hardened.
"Target their command ships," he ordered.
"Fire at will." For 2 hours, space itself burned. Plasma lances carved through Dominion cruisers.
Rail slugs shattered moons. The battle was not a contest, it was an extermination. When the debris cleared, only silence remained. And still, there was no sign of Elias Ward.
Back in the Dominion's deep core, Vralkesh watched the reports with growing dread. Entire fleets annihilated. Colonies darkened.
Even the Dominion Senate had gone silent. He turned to Elias, who sat chained but still defiant.
"Your people are mad," he spat.
"They destroy entire sectors for one man."
Elias met his gaze. "You don't understand humanity.
You think we fight for territory, for resources."
He leaned forward. "We fight for each other. You hurt one of us, you face all of us."
Vralkesh slammed a clawed hand on the console. "They will burn the galaxy for nothing."
Ward's eyes flickered with something between pity and pride.
No, he said softly. For something worth everything. Outside, distant tremors rippled through the station. The humans were coming closer. At sole command, Admiral Kincaid received the decrypted coordinates.
Dominion Black Ops chatter confirmed Ward's location, an orbital fortress above Corinth Prime, deep inside enemy space, protected by planetary shields and 30 defense fleets. Jonah Reyes looked up from his console. "Ma'am, that's suicide." Kincaid's response was quiet, almost reverent. "Not suicide, Lieutenant. Retribution." She activated the final code. "Begin Operation Ashfall." The jump into Corinth Prime was unlike any the galaxy had ever witnessed.
Thousands of Terran warships tore from hyperspace in unison, like a swarm of burning angels.
Titans, dreadnoughts, carriers, every class from Earth's arsenal. The Dominion panicked.
Their fleets scattered like insects before the hurricane. But there was no escape.
The Terrans did not come to conquer, they came to erase. Inside the fortress, alarms wailed. Vralkesh barked orders, trying to raise defenses. "Bring shields to full. Prepare warp." Then the sky split open. A Terran Nova Lance, forbidden, apocalyptic, descended from orbit. It didn't strike with light, it consumed it. The fortress trembled, metal screaming. Elias Ward felt the chains on his wrists grow molten. The explosion tore across Corinth Prime's stratosphere, reducing defense grids to dust. And through the chaos, a drop pod slammed into the station. Inside it, armored figures emerged, black armor marked with the sigil of Earth, a blue-white circle wreathed in flame. The Terran vanguard had arrived. Sergeant Ava Monroe led the breach. Her HUD pulsed with crimson markers. "Locate Ward," she ordered. Her squad moved like ghosts through smoke and fire, cutting down anything not human. Minutes later, they found him bloodied but alive, leaning against a shattered wall. "Commander Ward?" Ava called. He smiled faintly. "You're late." "Sir," she said, kneeling, "the galaxy's been busy." They extracted him under a hail of plasma. As their ship ascended through burning skies, Ward looked out at the world below, a planet turning to ash under the fury of Earth. "Admiral Kincaid," Ava transmitted, "we have him." Kincaid's voice came through the static, trembling with both relief and wrath. "Then bring him home. And make sure there's nothing left standing behind you." The Dominion would never recover from that day. They had tried to make a statement by taking one human. Instead, they taught the stars what it meant when Earth was angry. The message echoed across every system, every species that watched in terror. "You can break a human. But you will never survive the ones who come to bring them back." The stars were no longer silent. They screamed with the sound of war. For the first time in a millennium, entire constellations burned red as the Terran Armada pushed deep into Dominion space. The Battle of Corinth Prime was only the beginning. After Commander Elias Ward's rescue, Earth's vengeance had transformed from a strike mission into a crusade. From orbit, the Dominion worlds looked like glowing coals, civilizations erased in precision bombardments that left nothing but shadows on glass. And Elias was watching it all unfold. He stood aboard the TSS Resolute, Earth's flagship, in a command deck wreathed in blue light. Around him, officers moved with grim determination, each carrying the same unspoken fury that had united all of humanity. Across the massive viewport, the burning remains of Corinth Prime drifted, continents broken, oceans boiling, cities reduced to luminous scars. Admiral Mara Kincaid approached, her uniform immaculate despite the exhaustion in her eyes. She had been awake for nearly 40 hours. "You should be in medbay, Commander," she said. Elias shook his head. "Later." She studied him for a moment, then turned her gaze to the wreckage beyond. "You warned them," she said quietly. "And now they know." Elias didn't answer immediately. His hands clenched behind his back. "This isn't war anymore," he murmured. "It's something else." Kincaid's eyes hardened. "They broadcasted your capture to the galaxy. They wanted to break Earth's spirit. Instead, they lit a match they can't put out." A silence settled between them,
broken only by the hum of distant engines and the quiet chorus of status reports.
Then Kincaid turned away. "Fleet Command has voted unanimously," she said. "We're expanding Operation Ashfall." Elias frowned. "Expanding? To what extent?"
Kincaid looked at him, voice steady.
"To completion.
The Dominion doesn't get to rebuild.
We're going to end them." Across the galaxy, that promise took form.
Terran fleets swept through system after system, Steel and Fury incarnate.
The 3rd Expeditionary Wing under Admiral Porter annihilated the Dominion's shipyards at Halver 6.
The Vanguard Legion, led by General Monroe, descended on the fortress moons of Rhinaxbelt, erasing garrisons that had stood for centuries.
Even the civilian transports carried weapons now, their hulls emblazoned with the words, "For Ward. For Earth."
The galaxy watched in stunned silence.
Old empires that once dismissed humanity as primitive now scrambled to hide their fleets, sealing borders and cutting communications. The Terran advance was swift, methodical, and merciless. No negotiations. No prisoners.
The Corinth Dominion's High Senate tried to surrender, sending encrypted pleas through every diplomatic relay. But Earth had gone beyond diplomacy. Every message returned undelivered, intercepted, or answered by silence, followed shortly after by the blinding light of kinetic fire from orbit.
In the command war room aboard the Resolute, a holographic map flickered vast, dotted with Dominion worlds.
Each pulse of red turned gray as the Terran front advanced.
Elias watched it all unfold, his expression unreadable. Lieutenant Jonah Reyes, his old tactical aide, approached with hesitation. "Sir, incoming report. Another planet neutralized Ralthera." Elias didn't look up. "Civilian count?"
Reyes swallowed.
2 billion, sir."
The room fell quiet again. Elias closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, the fire outside the viewport reflected in his pupils.
"And still," he whispered, "it isn't enough for them." Later that night, he found Admiral Kincaid alone in the observation chamber.
She stood staring out at the swirling nebula, colors shifting like slow lightning.
"You should rest," he said softly. She didn't turn. "Do you remember Vega 9?" she asked. He frowned. "Of course.
I lost my son there," she said simply.
Dominion strike. His ship was running evac for colonists.
I got the footage 3 days later." Her voice trembled, just once.
"You think I don't know what this is costing us? Every ship we lose, every world we burn? I know. But this is the only language they ever understood."
Elias stepped beside her.
"Vengeance isn't a language," he said quietly. "It's an echo. It answers nothing." She finally looked at him, and for a brief second, he saw the human beneath the iron mask. "Maybe," she whispered. "But it's the only answer we have left."
2 weeks later, the Dominion was on the brink of extinction. Their fleets had shattered. Their communication network lay in ruins. Planetary capitals burned. Yet still, the Terran fleets pressed on. Until one signal reached them. It came from a remote star cluster known as Taraxis Reach, a sector long believed barren. The message was ancient, encoded in frequencies and used for centuries.
But it carried one unmistakable thing, a human voice. "This is Elias Ward," the message began. Admiral Kincaid froze when she heard it.
"That's impossible," she whispered.
"He's right here." But the recording continued, a desperate plea wrapped in static. "This is Elias Ward of the Terran Alliance. If anyone can hear this, I am still alive. They're experimenting, cloning, trying to use me against Earth." The message cut off.
Kincaid turned toward Elias, pale and speechless. The man standing beside her stared back, equally stunned.
"Cloning?" Reyes murmured. "But that would mean..." Elias shook his head.
"That means the Dominion never stopped playing games." And in that instant, a new kind of fire was lit.
Not fury. Not vengeance. Doubt.
The Terran fleet moved to investigate.
Scouts entered Taraxis Reach first, stealth corvettes gliding through the dark like ghosts.
What they found made even hardened soldiers falter.
An entire Dominion facility hidden inside an artificial moon, surrounded by wreckage that looked human. Old Terran hulls, stripped and repurposed.
And inside, thousands of containment pods, each holding a copy of Commander Elias Ward, suspended in cold blue light. When the real Elias saw the footage, his blood ran cold. They were trying to build leverage, Kincaid said grimly.
A weapon of fear. If they had succeeded. They didn't, Elias cut in.
But his voice wavered. They only needed one clone to live long enough to send that transmission.
Kincaid nodded. And we responded.
We've burned half the galaxy because of it.
For the first time since his rescue, Elias felt his chest tighten.
He stared at the screen, at the frozen faces identical to his own.
How many? He whispered. Over 4,000, Reyes answered. All human. All clones. Most failed.
The silence afterward felt like gravity, crushing and endless.
When Kincaid finally spoke again, her voice was low.
The Dominion's finished. Their core worlds are gone. But this changes everything.
Elias turned to her. You're calling it off?
No, she said firmly. We finish what we started.
But after that.
She hesitated.
After that, Earth will need to answer for what it's become.
Elias nodded slowly, his gaze distant out toward the void, where fire still drifted like ghosts of dying stars.
I told them, he murmured.
I told the Corinth they were making a mistake.
Kincaid tilted her head. And were they? Elias's jaw clenched. No. We were.
That night, the Terran flagship Resolute prepared for its final jump into the Dominion's last stronghold, deep within the dying heart of Taraxis Prime. One more world to erase.
One more act to close the book. As the fleet aligned, Kincaid's final transmission echoed across all channels, heard by allies and enemies alike. For humanity. For our fallen. For Commander Ward. This is Earth's final strike. And as the ships vanished into hyperspace, the galaxy held its breath. Because even vengeance has an ending.
And something far more dangerous was waiting on the other side. The stars no longer burned.
They bled.
Every Terran ship that entered the Taraxis sector moved through a sky still glowing with the embers of the war they'd unleashed. The void shimmered with wreckage, Dominion hulls drifting like black snow, fragments of a civilization erased from history. At the center of it all hung Taraxis Prime, the last surviving Dominion world. It was no jewel of empire, it was a scarred planet wrapped in storm and static.
Once, Dillians had lived there.
Now, the surface pulsed with weapon grids and burning cities.
The TSS Resolute led the formation.
Admiral Mara Kincaid stood at the bridge's forward viewport, her reflection dim and hard in the glow of the dying star.
This is it, she said. The end of the Dominion.
Commander Elias Ward stood beside her, silent. Behind them, crew members waited, hands hovering over weapon controls, eyes heavy from endless days of battle. They had come too far to turn back, and yet the silence in the room didn't feel like triumph.
It felt like something else. Something emptier.
Terran Command had already declared victory.
The networks back on Earth broadcast parades, music, and firework halos over every major city. Children waved flags. Veterans wept. The slogan filled every channel. Earth stands for its own.
But up here, far beyond the reach of celebration, Elias Ward could see the truth that Earth had traded mercy for fear, compassion for power. And fear, he realized, spreads faster than light. Admiral, Lieutenant Jonah Reyes said, breaking the silence. We're detecting energy spikes across Taraxis orbit.
Multiple signatures. Looks like hybrid drives? Kincaid frowned. Hybrid? Dominion doesn't use that tech. They do now, Reyes replied. And there's something else. Frequency encryption matches ours. That made Elias's stomach tighten. On screen, Kincaid ordered. The holomap bloomed with crimson icons, dozens of ships rising from Tyraxis's atmosphere. But these weren't alien craft. They bore Terran outlines, unmistakably human designs, twisted with Dominion modifications. Elias took a sharp breath. They used the clones, he said. They built a fleet. The first transmission came seconds later. A face appeared, his own. Admiral Kincaid, the clone said, voice calm, hauntingly similar. Commander Elias Ward sends his regards. Kincaid's eyes narrowed. Identify yourself. I am Ward, the clone replied. Version 7. Born in Dominion labs, raised in captivity, taught to be the weapon humanity would become. He paused. You burned half the galaxy to save your hero. Now watch as your hero burns you. Then the transmission cut. The first volley struck moments later. Blue-white plasma fire sliced through Terran destroyers. Torpedoes screamed through the dark. The Resolute rocked violently as the clone fleet descended, moving in perfect formation, precise, ruthless, mechanical. Elias stumbled, gripping the railing. He's using Dominion code, but human tactics. He knows us. Kincaid gritted her teeth. Then we changed the rules. Full counterfire. The void erupted. Terran railguns blazed. Beam cannons carved through the enemy line. For every clone ship destroyed, 2 more emerged from the storm below. The battle raged for hours, a dance of fire and steel, where each explosion lit the darkness like flashes of judgment. Still, the clones didn't falter. They moved like extensions of a single mind, his mind. Elias could feel it. Every maneuver mirrored the tactics he'd once written, the doctrines he'd built. The enemy was him. And for the first time, Earth's vengeance turned inward. Half the fleet was gone before Kincaid gave the order to pull back. This isn't a war, she said through clenched teeth. It's a mirror. Elias turned to her. We can end it. How? She demanded. You saw that transmission, he's not human anymore. Elias hesitated, then said, no, but I am. He moved to the central console. Patch me through to the clone fleet. Kincaid's eyes widened. You're not seriously. I started this, he said. And I'll finish it. The comms lit up with interference, then the channel opened. Across the void, hundreds of ships froze mid-maneuver. And there, above Tyraxis Prime, the clone appeared again, the same calm, almost sorrowful expression on his face. Version 7, Elias said quietly. You don't have to do this. You don't understand, the clone replied. I'm not doing this out of hate. I'm doing it because of what you made humanity become. He gestured to the burning sky. Look at them, Elias. The Dominion didn't destroy the galaxy. You did. You and the ones who came for you. Elias's jaw tightened. I didn't choose any of this. But you inspired it, the clone said. You gave Earth a reason to believe that vengeance is strength. You turned compassion into a weapon. We, your copies, were built to embody that. To be better. To never forgive. The silence that followed was suffocating. Kincaid whispered, end this, Commander. Please. Elias looked up, eyes hollow but resolute. You're right, he said to the clone. Maybe I did start it. But if I did, then I'm ending it. He reached for the console, inputting an override code, one that only the real Elias Ward could know. The clone's image flickered. What are you doing? The clone demanded. Something only a human would, Elias said softly. He entered the command sequence, Phoenix Protocol. It was an ancient contingency, buried deep in the Terran fleet's AI systems. A self-purge cascade meant to ensure no corrupted version of humanity's code could survive. Kincaid's eyes widened. Elias, that'll take us down too. I know, he said. But maybe that's the only way we stop becoming monsters. The clone screamed through static, you can't erase what we are. Elias whispered, watch me. He pressed execute. The stars went white. Across the Tyraxis sector, every Terran and clone ship detonated in synchronized brilliance, a storm of light that drowned out the void. Shockwaves rippled across the planetary rings, turning them into molten arcs of fire. Kincaid tried to stop him, but it was too late. The command spread faster than thought. Even the Resolute began to break apart, its hull glowing red with heat. "Elias," she shouted over the alarms. "There's still time to." He turned to her, smiling faintly, tired, at peace. "You told me once vengeance was the only answer left. Maybe mercy deserves one more try." Then the deck erupted in flame. Days later, the fires faded. The Tyraxis expanse was gone, turned into a glowing nebula, rich with debris and starlight. Only fragments of Terran hulls drifted through it, silent sentinels of a war that had gone too far. Earth received the final transmission weeks later. A distorted signal, faint but unmistakable, Elias Ward's voice, echoing from the void. "If you hear this, remember what we were before the fire. We fought for each other. Don't forget that. Don't let vengeance be our legacy." In the aftermath, the Terran Council called it the Ward Purge. Some hailed Elias as a martyr. Others whispered that he'd betrayed Earth. But the war ended. The fleets came home. And for the first time in years, the galaxy began to heal. Admiral Mara Kincaid survived. She often visited the memorial on Luna, a quiet monument beneath the glass dome, where Elias Ward's name glowed among millions of stars etched into metal. Standing there one evening, she looked up at the sky, still scarred, still beautiful. "Rest easy, Commander," she whispered. "You made them remember." And somewhere, far beyond the reach of any world, the nebula that had once been Tyraxis Prime shimmered softly, like a human heartbeat against the endless dark. They held one man hostage, and Earth burned the stars to bring him home. But in the ashes, humanity found its soul again.